Welcome to the Deep Dive. We are cutting straight through the noise today.
hmm
We want to tackle a really interesting question, maybe even a conflict. Is piling up wealth really about pure genius? Advanced math, super high IQ?
Or is it something else entirely?
Yeah.
Something maybe hiding in plain sight, more to do with, well, psychological habits?
Exactly. And based on the sources we're looking at today, a mix of classic thinking on achievement and modern behavioral finance, the answer seems pretty clear.
Yeah, the evidence really points towards the second one. It's less about sheer brain power and honestly a lot more about how you actually behave consistently over time.
So our mission today is to kind of pull out those core elements, the things that bridge that gap between just thinking about getting rich and, actually doing it.
We're focusing on mindset, time, persistence,
Mm.
and how you handle the curveballs life throws at you,
Yeah.
the volatility.
Okay, let's jump right in then. The engine room, maybe. What's the absolute starting point?
Well, if you look at some of the foundational texts on personal success, the very first thing, the absolute non-negotiable, it's a burning, definite desire.
Okay, a burning, definite desire, not just like, I want some money.
Exactly. Everyone wants money. That's easy. This has to go way beyond that. It needs to become a real objective,
Yeah.
defined, almost an obsession.
That difference feels critical between just wanting something casually and having that definite purpose.
It is. Think about that classic example. C.H. Barnes going to meet Thomas Edison.
Right. The story goes he didn't just wander in asking for a job, any job.
No, he showed up fully intending to become Edison's business associate. He'd already made up his mind.
He burned his bridges, didn't he? That's the phrase used.
Yeah, he saw himself as Edison's partner long before it was actually true. And apparently his appearance wasn't much, but his mindset, that's what mattered.
Which brings up another key point from those older sources, doesn't it? People often mix up what they want with what they think they deserve. They're just dues.
hmm Big time. We feel we deserve the money, but we forget the other side of the coin.
Which is?
Financial value ultimately comes from your ability to provide useful service. If you only have the want, but no definite plan, no specific service you're offering, you're just setting yourself up for disappointment.
Okay, so you need that intense, defined desire. But how do you actually build that if it's not there naturally?
That's where this idea of autosuggestion comes into play, the mind. It's incredibly open to influence, more than we probably realize.
This part is fascinating. The subconscious mind is described almost like a chemical laboratory. Is that right?
Yeah, that's the metaphor used. It takes the thoughts we feed it, positive, negative, fear, courage, whatever, and it starts translating them into, well, reality, into action.
So it's not just wishful thinking then?
Not according to this philosophy. It suggests you can actively develop faith, or that definite belief,
Yeah.
by deliberately repeating specific statements to yourself. Affirmations, maybe? Repeating them until your subconscious mind accepts them as true, even if they aren't initially. You're essentially programming your own internal operating system.
So you're consciously choosing the input, focusing on positive emotions, pushing out the negative ones, to train your subconscious to act on what you want.
Exactly. To make that desire definite and ultimately actionable, it's presented as a real mechanism.
Okay, so that's the internal engine. Now, when we pivot to the more modern behavioral research, it seems like there's a really strong echo here, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. The core idea coming out of behavioral finance is that, surprisingly, doing well with money often has very little to do with how smart you are, your IQ score.
It's all about how you behave.
Pretty much. It really boils down to emotional control. You can have a certified genius, financially speaking, who completely loses control of their behavior, and it's a disaster.
Right.
But then you can have ordinary folks, people with maybe just a handful of basic behavioral skills, patience, saving consistently, sticking with it, who can actually end up incredibly wealthy.
The contrast between Ronald Read and Richard Fuscone illustrates this perfectly, doesn't it?
It's stark. Ronald Read, a janitor, a gas station attendant, lived a very simple, unremarkable life.
Well, what did he do?
He saved what little he could, consistently. He invested it in solid blue-chip stocks. Yeah. And then he just waited.
For how long?
Decades. He just let compounding work its magic. And when he died, he left over $8 million, mostly to his local library and hospital.
$8 million from a janitor's savings. Incredible.
Now compare that to Richard Fuscone, Harvard-educated, top executive at Merrill Lynch, praised everywhere for his business savvy.
Sounds like the opposite story.
You'd think so. He retired wealthy in his 40s. But then, later on, he went completely broke.
Why? What happened?
Reckless behavior, emotionally driven financial decisions, leverage, spending. the works. He couldn't control himself.
Wow. So a janitor beats a Harvard exec purely on behavior, on emotional control, and just sticking with it.
That's the takeaway. Behavior trumps brilliance in the long run.
If behavior is that powerful, what are some of the early warning signs when someone, even someone really successful, starts losing that behavioral edge?
Well, one big one is what the research calls the hidden cost of more.
The cost of more.
Yeah. Think about someone like Rajat Gupta. Hugely successful, unimaginable wealth already, on the board of Goldman Sachs, no less.
Okay.
But he wanted more. He wasn't satisfied. He wanted into that absolute inner circle of billionaires, and he threw everything away with insider trading to try and get there.
So it's that inability to just say, okay, this is enough.
That's the financial Achilles heel, isn't it?
Yeah.
For most people, it's not illegal, like Gupta's case, obviously. But that internal feeling of never having enough, that inability to pass up a potential extra dollar, even when you already have plenty, that can eventually catch up to you. It can be just as ruinous. Your wealth isn't necessarily taken by a market crash. Sometimes it's taken by your own internal greed or lack of boundaries.
Yeah.
So going back to Reed, the janitor who won, the secret sauce was compounding, right?
Right. Letting his money grow over time.
But the behavioral research adds the crucial nuance here. It reframes compounding. It says fundamentally compounding is about time, maybe even more than it's about investment skill or acumen.
And the ultimate example of that has to be Warren Buffett.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
His investing skill is legendary, no question. But his real secret weapon? Longevity. Just sheer time in the market.
What are the numbers on that? It's pretty staggering.
Yeah, something like nearly all of his massive fortune, like $81 billion of it, was accumulated after he qualified for Social Security, after his mid-60s.
So if he'd started investing, say, in his 30s, but retired in his 60s like most people,
He would have ended up with like 99.9% less wealth. It's mind-boggling.
our brains just don't grasp exponential growth easily, do they? We think linearly. 2 plus 2 plus 2.
Exactly. So the power of just letting things grow over long, long periods often seems wrong.
Yeah. Counterintuitive. We overlook time as maybe the most powerful driver.
But time isn't the only big external force we tend to underestimate, is it? Not at all. Luck and risk. They're like siblings, and they play a massive role in outcomes, way beyond our individual effort sometimes.
There's that story about Bill Gates.
Yeah, it illustrates the duality perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
Gates experienced what you could call 1 in a million luck. He happened to go to Lakeside, one of the only high schools in the world at that time that had a computer.
Wow. That access was crucial.
It jump-started everything for him. But then, consider his friend, Kent Evans.
His early coding partner.
Just as bright, just as into computers. But he experienced 1 in a million risk. He died in a mountaineering accident before he even finished high school.
Oh, wow. Same magnitude of chance, just pulling in opposite directions.
Precisely. So the big takeaway here, the thing you have to factor into any plan, is you've got to respect luck and risk. When you look at someone's success or their failure, it's almost never as simple as just their own actions. It's rarely as good or as bad as it seems on the surface because these outside forces are huge.
Okay, so if the world outside is so influenced by these big random forces, luck, risk, how did those older philosophical texts suggest we kind of fight back? How do we impose some order?
By creating organized power, that's the term used. And power, in this context, means knowledge that's organized and put into action,
Okay.
which leads directly to this idea of the mastermind principle.
The mastermind. What does that involve?
It's about coordinating with other people, combining your knowledge, experience, education, imagination with theirs, working together towards a common goal.
So collaboration is key.
It's presented as essential. The source points to Gandhi, saying he achieved a miracle by getting hundreds of millions of minds in India to coordinate peacefully towards a single, definite purpose independence. Collaboration is positioned as the way you organize against chaos and chance.
All right, so if collaborating and organizing knowledge is the power source, you still need to turn that into, well, a plan, right? Something concrete.
Absolutely. The philosophy side is very clear on this. Knowledge itself is just potential power. It only becomes actual power when you organize it into definite plans of action and then execute them.
It takes real effort to make that plan definite.
Intense effort.
Yeah.
There's this great little story about a woman whose son graduated college but was really struggling to find a job.
Okay. What does she do?
She didn't just give him advice. She created this incredibly detailed, almost 50-page plan book for him.
50 pages. Seriously, what was in it?
Everything. His specific qualifications tailored to the exact job he wanted, practical ideas for the company he was applying to how he could help them. She'd even researched their competitors.
That is thorough. That's
Oh.
taking definite plan to a whole new level.
It really is. But that's the kind of organized planning that turns potential into something real.
Okay, but even the best plans, they run into problems, right? They hit roadblocks. What then?
Then you need persistence. The philosophy is really strong on this point. Hitting a wall facing temporary defeat that is not the same as permanent failure.
It's just a signal.
Exactly. It's a signal that your current plan isn't working. It's unsound. So, you don't quit the goal, you rebuild the plan. You adapt, and you try again.
The classic example being Edison again.
Of course, Thomas Edison met with temporary defeat, his words, apparently 10,000 times before he finally perfected the light bulb. Persistence is just continuously applying definite plans, even after setbacks.
But sticking with a plan, especially something like long-term investing, it isn't free, is it? There's a cost.
A very real cost. And the behavioral finance side argues we often think about the wrong currency. We focus on dollar costs, fees maybe.
Yeah.
But the real currency of successful long-term investing, it's volatility, fear, doubt, regret. That's the price you pay emotionally.
Wow, okay. That's a powerful framing. Volatility, fear, doubt, regret.
It changes how you should view market swings, doesn't it? The goal shouldn't be to avoid that turbulence at all costs. Instead, you need to see that volatility as a fee.
A fee, like a admission ticket.
Exactly. It's the price you pay for the potential of higher long-term returns. It's not a fine, which is a penalty you try to avoid.
Because trying to avoid the fee,
Right.
like people trying to time the market perfectly.
Often ends up costing you more. You pay fees for tactical funds, you miss the best days in the market.
Yeah.
You essentially pay double for worse results.
So endurance comes from accepting the bumps as part of the deal, which leads us back to preparation, right? Building in resilience.
Which brings us to Benjamin Graham's famous concept, the margin of safety, or as one source puts it, worshiping room for error.
Margin of safety, what does that mean in practical terms?
It's about creating a buffer, increasing the gap between what you expect to happen or what you think should happen and what could actually happen in a worst-case scenario.
Okay.
It's about making sure that no matter what unexpected thing occurs, you survive. You're still in the game, capable of fighting another day.
Because the truly damaging risks are often the ones you never saw coming.
Precisely. There's that weird anecdote about German tanks in World War II. Some of the most advanced military hardware on Earth, reportedly disabled not by enemy shells, but by field mice chewing through the wiring insulation.
No way. Mice took out tanks.
It highlights the need to prepare for risks you can't even imagine. Avoid single points of failure, like relying only on your job's paycheck with zero savings. That's a single point of failure. The unpredictable will happen eventually. You need that margin. Hashtag tag outro.
So when you pull all this together, what's the big picture for you, the listener? It seems true financial success isn't just one thing. It's this convergence, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like intense, focused, internal effort, that burning desire, the detailed planning, the sheer persistence.
Combined with a really smart, savvy behavioral response to the external world, how you handle time, how you respect risk, how you endure that inevitable volatility.
And zooming out even further, the modern research gives us a powerful reminder about what all this effort, all this money is ultimately for.
Right, what's the point? Money's greatest real value, the best thing it buys. Control over your own time.
Ah, yes. Independence. Autonomy.
That ability to wake up and say, I can do what I want today, that, according to the research, is the highest form of wealth, the highest dividend money pays.
Which leads to one final, maybe slightly challenging thought for you to consider. Yeah. Psychologists talk about something called the end of history illusion.
The end of history illusion, what's that?
It's our tendency to recognize how much we've changed in the past, but to underestimate how much our personality, our goals, our desires will change in the future.
Ah, so we think our current self is the finished version.
Kind of, yeah. But your goals will change. Your situation will change. So if that's true, maybe the smartest long-term strategy isn't aiming for the absolute maximum savings rate or the most extreme career path.
What's the alternative?
Maybe it's aiming for moderate. Moderate savings you can stick with, moderate free time so you don't burn out, moderate satisfaction in your work.
Why?
Why moderate? Because aiming for moderation, for balance, actually increases the odds that you'll be able to stick with the plan for the long decades required. It helps you avoid future regret and allows that compounding magic, driven by time and persistence, to really work.